Hi, welcome to Laexcellence IAS Academy. My name is Siddesh and I am a mentor and faculty here. And I hope and believe that those who gave this year prelims exam must have done well. And now you must be in the relaxing mode. And let us understand what exactly the myths which are surrounded by the exam. The post-examination, absolutely this becomes a subject to discussion in the market, and the people will start assuming multiple things which are not exactly the matters, and many peoples will get victims of the myths, and they will literally start wasting their time rather preparing for the upcoming exam, which upcoming mains exam, which we have a very close time left over. So let us understand now what exactly the popular myths surrounding the UPSC CSE Prelims 2025, which has been just done freshly, and many of you people must have appeared for the exam, and those who have not even appeared, even for them it is going to be a such an insightful lesson, and you may have the better understanding what exactly the people thoughts and how people thinks that the things about the exam. So many of the people usually think that if CSAT is tough for me, it is tough for everybody. Though it is partially true, but it is not the fact. So because just because the CSAT found it is tough for you, it doesn't mean that becomes tough for everybody. So here, so most of the people who gave this particular exam come from the very diverse reasons and very diverse backgrounds and diverse academic background that they belong to. So for example, the amount of toughness of CSAT to the person who is humanity background and the amount of toughness of the same paper for the person who is having engineering background is totally different. The person who is from the tech background will obviously find this paper as easier and you would just have a cakewalk, and but the person who is from the humanity background or maybe from different background, which is like a non-tech or the non-mathematical background, may find this paper bit of a tougher. So just because it is tough for you, it doesn't mean that it is tough for everybody. So this is one of the myth that you should be clear about, and in case if UPSC obviously wanted to make it very justifying thing for everybody, and for that sake it has kept only 33%. Yeah, it has just given only 33% of your, you just have to score how much? 33% of total marks, which is around 66. So just you have to score 66 marks to get into the list. So that was the recall, providing you the level playing field for everybody. So irrespective of whatsoever the background that you come from, be it a tech background, be it a non-tech background, so in order to justify everybody, in order to provide the level playing field for everyone, so UPSC has kept its the qualifying target as lower as 33%. So now let us understand what exactly the second myth that is being discussed in this, discussed post the exam. So more questions from modern history means you must read only spectrum. So no, so though the spectrum becomes ultimately very important and a prime source for the history, but it doesn't mean that only covering the spectrum would suffice everything. No. So because spectrum is one of the important source in the UPSC preparation, and it really plays a very crucial role in covering the modern history part. But so whereas understanding the basic stuff, this year we got to see the domination of the modern history. So and most of the questions from modern history were easy doing and which were good in nature insofar as modern history is concerned. But so just thinking that modern history means you just have to read spectrum doesn't make any sense, because so in order to understand the modern history better, first and foremost thing that you are supposed to do is complete the NCERT in a well full-fledged way and have the thorough understanding of the NCERT, then jumping into the spectrum and covering the respective area in the depth manner would suffice for the modern history question. So anyhow, the ultimatum of spectrum is no more myth. So here, so along with the spectrum, so NCERT plays a very crucial role. Now let us understand the third myth, so which is being again discussed. So that is, polity was easy because questions were direct. So this year polity was I can't say that that is so easy, and again it was not so tough too. It was easy to moderate. I can't again take it as easy to moderate, but some of the questions were literally difficult too. So there was around 15 questions from the polity section. So out of which some of the questions, which like around 11 to 12 questions, I could say that, so which were easy to moderate, and 2-3 questions were out of the range, and which might need the depth understanding of the topic and the depth analysis of the topic. So this year we got to see that though the number of questions from the polity area is dominating, still, so most of the questions are from the current relevant, and especially the governor part and the president part, so we got to see, which are highly discussed in the news, and we got to see the same questions. But when it comes the polity, so what surprises is, so this year the statements of each questions were higher in number. So there were 3/4 statements constantly for all the polity questions, and which made students bit of a difficult to solve the paper, solve those questions, because most of them were application based questions, and some of the questions were situational based questions, and here it becomes bit of a difficulty for a candidate to even think of elimination, because however there was no essence for elimination. So most of all the polity questions were having the statement based, and which the new trend of UPSC, where it has asked how many of the above statements are correct. So thus there was no scope for attempting all the questions, because they was risky. So now let us understand what exactly the fourth myths that is being surrounded by the same. So in economic questions can be answered with the basic concepts only. So it is again a biggest myth that everyone gets succumbed to. So economic questions absolutely cannot solve only by understanding the basic concepts. So you may have to again go depth into the topic, and the depth analysis of the topic is ultimately needed. So this year UPSC, however, surprised everybody by bringing the essence of CSAT in the GS paper, and literally GS paper made you to calculate, and so where you are being where you may required calculating the problems here. So it was totally application based problem, and so there was 2-3 questions which were where you may have to put the your mental ability, and you may have to calculate the stuff to answer those questions. So economy again this year was not as easier, but yes, most of the people found economy. So, and however some of the questions were easy to moderate, and some of the questions were bit of a moderate questions, and I did not find any tough questions in the economy section. Thus, so only covering the basics would not be sufficient for economy. So however, for basic, most of you people will consider NCERT. So along the side of NCERT, covering the current affairs effectively, and also covering the standards, and understanding the depth analysis of the same topic is highly needed. And now let us move on to the fifth myth, which is science and tech will be current affairs heavy, no need for theory. So yes, most of the people have this wrong misconception. So every time and in every exam I get to hear that science and tech means only current affairs, and most of the people do not consider this as one of the subject itself in the UPSC. So they mainly focus on the current affairs, and whatever that comes in the current affairs, they keep that up, updated. But what exactly kills student here is, so, and the big trap for the student is, so you may be having the better understanding of that particular topic which come in the current affairs, but the depth understanding, the basic clear of that particular topic is highly needed. So how do you clear the basics? So obviously you have to go back to again NCERT. So as long as you do not have the basic understanding of that particular topic, even if it is coming multiple times in the current affairs, may sound very irrelevant, because you may be keeping yourself updated with the current affairs, but you are not having the clarity of that particular topic. You may not be having the conceptual clarity of that particular topic. So thus I would urge that do not take science and tech lighter, because science and tech may sound easier, by covering the current affairs, but ultimately to solve the current affairs related topic, you may need and you may require the basic understanding. So thus rely upon the NCERT for the coverage of science and tech is highly advisable. Now let us move forward to international relations. International relations is irrelevant due to fewer questions. Yes, this year we got to see very few questions from the international relations, hardly 7 questions from IR part, and which were again highly current related, and which is like BIMSTEC and BRICS and NATO were being asked. So though which were expected area, and so now the myth is, so just because international relation number of questions have reduced this year, it doesn't mean that it will sound irrelevant to UPSC. No, because so those few questions, whatever the few questions that we are getting to see, so that has its own weightage, and 5 to 7, 8 questions which comes every year, and sometimes it has come to more than 10, 2 digits questions. So that has its own potential, and UPSC will never miss out touching the higher part. It may be a few questions, but it has a very good weightage and a very easier one, and from whatever the questions that came this year, which were ultimately easily solvable questions, and which doesn't need your extreme application to the questions. So now let us understand the 7th myth. I can guess my result based on how I have performed in the exam, so or how I felt the exam. So it is again a big myth. Based on the performance that you have done in the exam, so do not come to a conclusion that whether it is going to be in your favor or whether it is going out of your favor. Yeah, it is always good to have a positive hope, and it is always good to have a hope and positive vibe, but it doesn't mean that you are just believing on something which is false. So your result is totally based on the performance that you are done, absolutely correct, but how do you assess your performance and your true performance in the exam, which you expect to be true? So how do you assess it? How do you assess yourself? So as long as we do not get the legitimate, authentic key source for that, and as long as sometime, even if we after all doing the good research on the keys, and if you release, there is certain possibilities that it may get to vary. So here, so have a positive hopes, but do not start guessing result. And those people who have performed better in GS1, and even if you are falling somewhere in the between 80 to 90, you may still have a positive hopes, because the CSAT paper has been considered to be tougher this year, and based on the toughness of the CSAT paper, the competition will obviously get reduced, and the cutoff for this particular paper, for GS paper will be set. So have a good hope and have a positive hope, and never misunderstood yourself. So now let us understand what exactly the 8th point or 8th myth that is being discussed. So I should attempt all questions to clear prelims. No. Here what happens is, so everyone try to attempt as many questions as possible, but they don't focus on the accuracy. So accuracy plays a very crucial role than number of attempts. So here the amount of questions that you are attempting doesn't matter, but what ultimately matters is how accurately you are attempting those questions. So focus and believe on the accuracy than the number of questions that you are attempting. The person who is topping in this particular exam, he only attempts around 70-80 questions, and he still falls into the top list. So just do not blindly attempt all the questions unless and until you are sure about the answer, and however you might be having some of the tricks that you have explored by your own, or the market followed tricks. So try to use those tricks and try to attempt in a very safe. So do not take a risk of attempting all the questions or as many questions. So it is not ultimately again the number of questions that you are attempting that gives you result. So what gives you result is how accurately you have attempted all those questions gives you result. So Now UPSC has finally become predictable. This I could seen as a joke because UPSC is never a predictable unit, so it is always unpredictable, and UPSC again it will safeguard its that what you call sanctity of being unpredictable. UPSC also, is always been an unpredictable commission, and it is going to be unpredictable. So now in a way, so UPSC, instead of calling as a Union Public Service Commission, people started calling as a unpredictable public service commission. Obviously it is being unpredictable in all the way it is possible in their exams. So we cannot many of the people might be thinking that after every exam they think that they cracked the formula for the questions, and they got the tricks to follow the to answer the question. So as in and then whenever you find out the tricks, UPSC is already have a backup and better plans to again rescue. So it is like for example there was an elimination technique, and when that technique is being started used by the mass, and so now all of a sudden UPSC came up with a different trend and different pattern. So that is how the UPSC is efficient enough to keep itself updated, and it will always surprise us everybody by being unpredictable. And skipping small topics won't hurt. So skipping small topics are definitely societal again. So because small topics plays a very crucial role, and which has been witnessed by all the aspirants this year, I guess. So small topics are the tiny topics has to be covered, and that has to be given its own importance. And when UPSC discusses about what do you call this time, the fruit, the Portuguese fruits related question, or maybe from some of the bronze girl, dancing bronze girl, so which may sound very easy, and which may be obviously most of the people must have found that question very easier, but as long as you do not touch that particular point, and in case if you are taking as easier, and in case if you are thinking that it is just a simple topic and why to give a more focus on that, and there can be a chances that you may commit a very grave mistake in the exam. So do not decide the small tiny topics, and skipping of small tiny topics, try to give a better importance to all the questions that is possible. So let us go for the depth analysis of. So now let us understand the weightage of this year paper. In 2025 the paper was being really easy to moderate, and some of the part was being found bit of a tougher. But now let us understand what exactly the subject wise weightage that we got to see in this year. So as usual, like UPSC always ensures some of the area will dominate in the paper, and this year the highly dominating paper, and not only this year, it happens with every year that UPSC ensures the economy part will play a very crucial role. So we got to see around 21 questions from the economy. That means out of 100 questions, so the weightage of the economy was 21%. So 21% of all paper was covered by the economy questions. So economy questions were basically found easier this time, and as I told you, UPSC made you people to calculate for the first time in the history of economy, as I could see, and so people had a fun with having the economy because there was no such extremely depth understanding, depth analysis required for that particular questions, and having a basic understanding of the topic must have been done for this. And for example, when you take RBI related questions, or maybe taking the calculations related questions, and however UPSC always ensures that some of the questions from the monetary policy and fiscal policy, or be it a banking, or be it inflation, so these are some of the area which always UPSC ensures that it will touch, and it has always touched. So economy has dominated this year, and history we got to see around 12 questions, and so some of the questions were repeated again. We got to see from some certain questions were repeated from the PYQ, and so the questions that we got to see is highly from modern history, and medieval question, from medieval history we did not get any questions to see, but from ancient obviously there were some questions, and from art and culture there were some limited questions. So the modern history part for this year was highly dominated. And now coming to geography. So, and yeah, as I spoke about PYQ, related to a question called the Aragata related topic. So that particular question came somewhere in 2016. So with the same format and the same question, so that appeared again this year, and so this will give up the clear message to you all that having the PYQ analysis and knowing the weightage of that particular topic is highly important. So what surprises me this year is UPSC has skipped off and the Buddhism and Jainism totally. So every year Buddhism and Jainism will have certain questions. So at least 2-3 questions from that particular section we got to see. But this year what happened? So all of a sudden there is a sudden fall of Buddhism and Jainism question, and there is not fall, I could say, it is totally disappeared from the paper, and so that was something which surprises. So that is how we can call UPSC unpredictable. And now let us understand geography. From geography, yes, there were some good number of questions, which are around 14 questions, and most of the questions were current related. And since geography is highly linked with and environment overlaps with the geography, so we got to see the good number of questions from that. And polity, yes, as I told you, this year polity was not so easy, and it was moderate to tough, and some of the questions were really tough enough to handle. But however, some of the questions were expected from this expected area, like governors related, and this year the UPSC expected you to apply your application, the application based questions were being asked. Now let us understand the science and technology, analysis of science and technology. So every year UPSC ensures that there is a good number of questions from the science and technology, and this year we got around 16 questions from science and technology. That means around 100, out of 100 questions we got to see, in all paper we got to see the 16% of the paper filled with science and technology. So science and technology, the questions were from basics to advanced, there were multiple questions, and we got to see from the good current related science and technology which has been covered, so which was not so tough this year, and most of the people have found science and technology as easy as this year the science and technology was as easier. And now let us understand environment. So environment is this is one of the subject again which has a high weightage in the exam. So every year we get to see around 15, 13, 16 questions from the environment which is fixed. So in out of all 100 questions, having 12 potential environment question is really a good weightage. And this year I could see there is a drastic fall in number of questions from the environment, but every year UPSC ensures that it will economy and environment will have a high good number of questions. And international relations, again there was a very easy 7 questions which anybody can do, and which was from the expected area and from the expected topic, and which were highly debated and discussed on a regular basis. From that particular area UPSC has that questions. So and UPSC from past 3-4 years UPSC started focusing on sports, so which generally UPSC did not do in the history of UPSC, but from last 3-4 years we get to see that there are scope for even the sports related current affairs. So that doesn't mean that you are asked to watch IPL throughout a day and night. So rather you should be knowing some sport, you should be keeping yourself aware of the sports which are highly important in nature, like which has a global impact. So for example, this year we got to see the sports related to Coco and chess, so which is highly important and highly discussed in the news. And every year we get to from last 2-3 years frequently we are getting to see at least 2-3 questions, and one from the prizes and award we are getting to see. So the weightage of UPSC prelims, history has played around 12%, and IR played around 7% and sports played around 3%, and geography has 14% of weightage, and polity has 15%, and economy, as I told, it has a 21% of the weightage. Now let us understand and let us do the analysis of last 13 years of trend analysis of UPSC prelims. In past 13 years, what exactly UPSC has done and what UPSC is being asking is becomes very, very important, because as long as you don't understand the past of UPSC, you may not you may not do the justice for the present. So I would suggest you to have the better attention for this section, because UPSC has always maintain some pattern, and that pattern you can track and break only when you know the past of UPSC, and when you know the PYQs, or when you know the last year or the previous year's questions papers and the question the way the UPSC has been asking. So this year, so now let us understand. So this is from 2013 to 2025. So we have the entire weightage analysis of and the trend analysis of 2013 to 2025. So in 2013, if we can notice here, there is no single question of sports from 2013 to 2016, and in 2016 there is one single question from the sports, and until 2016 there is no until 2015 there is no single question from the sports. So after that again there is a long gap, and a long gap of 4 years, and there is a 3 questions of sports in 2021, and in which is related to sports. I think after COVID we got to see this paper, and where the questions of sports were higher in number, and then the questions were basically about Olympics. So that is again as a world, the global impact, so that becomes obviously important. And now after again 3 years, so we got to see the pattern here. So we got to see how many questions, 2 questions from the sports and 1 question from the awards and prizes. So the sports is playing a crucial role. Do not, just because the weightage of sports is around 3% of overall exam, do not take it for lighter. So try to keep yourself updated with the sports which has a global impact and which has a regional impact too. And now let us understand the international relations last 13 years of trend. So in 2013, the overall weightage of international relations in the exam, in the UPSC exam, is just around 6%. The weightage of IR part in overall UPSC exam, considering based on the analysis of 2013 to 2025, so it is around 6%. So now let us understand, in 2013, if you can see, there is no single question from the IR, and then in 2014 there is a 4 questions from IR and 8 questions, 10 questions consecutively, and there is of ups and downs in number of questions here, and this year we got to see around 7 questions, and sometime we get to see the double digit questions from the IR section, and sometime it is single digit, but whatever the digits of questions that we get, so most of the time IR questions are easy going questions. And now coming to environment is some of the one among the favorite subject for UPSC to put questions. So here in all UPSC paper, based on the analysis of 2013 to 2025, it will have around 17% of weightage. So in 2013, in case if you can see, so there were 17 questions, so which was been asked directly from the environment, and then 19 questions which is again increased, and then 17, 14, 16, 13, 20, 21 questions in 2021, and this year we got to see fall, but it is still a good number. 12 questions from the environment is not a easy task. So now let us understand the science and technology weightage. So where science and technology again comparatively have a very good weightage, and 14% of weightage, again not easy, and so every year you get to see double digits of questions. And so in last 4-5 years, in case if we see, it is around 15 to 16 and 16 questions every year we get to see. And again in economy, so as we talk about economy plays a very good weightage in the entire UPSC paper. So it is around 19%. So 19% of all UPSC GS paper consists of only economy part. So economy, it is not only static based, it is from the very dynamic source, like maybe from the NCERT, maybe from the current, and maybe from the some other XYZ sources, but it has a really good potential of coming every year around 19 to 20. So in 2013, the number of questions from the economy section was 18, and then 10, 23, 29 questions in 2016, and 21. And again I would emphasize here, so economy is not solely what do you call it, the static economy. There is the essence of even the current affairs related topic, which is already covered in the inside. So we did not segregated the current affairs economy separately. So thus we are calculating all current affairs in all economy as a topic here. So every year we get to see the good number of questions. In 2018 we got 21 questions, and again now in 2025 we got around 21 questions. So coming to polity, so it has a 15% of weightage. Every year you get to see around 15 to 16 questions from the polity, that is must. And UPSC always ensures some of the areas have been touched, like fundamental rights, duties, and some of the provisions. Obviously UPSC has had governor and president, and these topics are highly touched upon every time, and UPSC has never betrayed in that sense. So yes, every year we get to see in 2013 17 question, and in 2017 26 question, which includes current affairs related polity question too, and again 19 question and 15 questions in 2025. And let us understand what exactly the geography weightage. Geography was around 12, geography is having a 12% of weightage in all UPSC, and out of 12, so let us know what exactly the questions. And here we have to understand again in geography, some of the area of geography overlaps with the environment, and it includes the current affairs also. And 2013 the number of questions of geography was around 20, and then 18, 14, and so you can see there are there is a drastic increase and decrease, of course. So now this year we got to see 14 questions from the geography area. And history, yes, this year there were very good number of questions from the history, and was easy solving questions, and which just need a basic understandings of some of the topic, and some of the questions of course required some depth analysis and depth understanding of the topics. And this year UPSC has touched down most of the simple areas to frame the questions, and modern history was being dominated. And in case if you can see from 2013 the number of questions which is coming from history part is around 16, and then in 2014 20, and later in 2021 it is 20 questions, and this year we get to see around 12 questions from the history part. So with this we are done with the last 13 years of analysis, and let us know what exactly the portion or the subject wise, overall subject wise weightage from 2013 to 2025. So as I told you, economy has always played a very crucial role, and it has around 18.8% of weightage in the entire UPSC GS1 paper. And then what comes next is polity. So environment. So after economy, every time the highly dominating the subject that we get to see in the paper is environment, and which is around 16.8% of the weightage. And then comes history, and history this year really had a very good number of questions, and at the same time history is always reserved a very good place in the paper, GS paper every year, and it has around 16.3% of weightage. And geography is having 12.5% of weightage, and science and technology is having again a very good number of weightage. It is around 13.7%, and so sports, it is around 3% of weightage. So now weightage as per the subject has been cleared, and based on this you can plan your preparation. So knowing the weightage, it becomes and it makes your job simpler to put your effort in the very right way on the right portion. So for example, if you are considering any of the topic which doesn't have the proper weightage and which doesn't have the good weightage in the exam, given more time and effort to that particular topic or the subject may not make any sense. So knowing the weightage, it will provide you the insight that you can prepare and channelize your energy and effort into that area which gives you good weightage. So based on the weightage, plan your studies. So now let us understand the difficulty level of this year paper. So everybody have their own perceptions, and based on the level of their preparation, so they will give their own opinion on the paper. Some are finding it easy, some are finding it difficult, and some are finding it moderate. So we analyzing the paper, so what we get to see is paper is moderate to difficult, not so easy. I can't say this paper was easy. As compared to last year, this year it was pretty tricky paper, and the paper was quite complex in nature, and I can't again say that it was highly complex because it was in the moderate to tough level. So now let us understand subject wise difficulty of the particular topic. So history, we got to see around 12 questions as we discussed, and the questions were easy to moderate, and most of the questions could have been solved in case if you have done the NCERT thoroughly. And so history was one of the area which we get to see the good number of questions this year, as well as the very simpler and easier questions. So and even in history we got to see the PYQ also. So Haragata was a topic which was being asked in 2016, and that again reoccurred this year. So this way UPSC sometimes surprises us by bringing the PYQ and repeating the same. And so most of the questions were factual based and concept based, and so those were NCERT level, and that doesn't need so much of depth understanding of the those questions to solve them. So because which were easy, the most of the questions were easy to moderate. And understand the geography. So geography, some of the questions were difficult. Nearly 4 to 5 questions were difficult in nature, and the rest of the questions were easy. And so paper finally, the entire geography section being tagged as moderate to difficult, and most of the questions were map based, and map plays a very crucial role every year, and this year also it has played. And it's a conceptual based some questions, and some of the questions were needed deeper understanding of the topic to solve that. So as long as you do not have the deeper understanding, so some of the questions were out of the reach. And with respect to polity, there were 15 questions, and most of the questions were easy to moderate. I can't say any questions were tough, but out of 15 questions, around 3 questions were tough. So out of 15, around 3 questions were tougher, and otherwise easily any rest of the questions were easy cakewalking. And yeah, so I could say consider polity was moderate to tough part, and most of the questions were conceptual based and situational, and some of the questions were applied politics was also being asked. So and in economy we got to see the good number of questions, which is around 21, and most of the questions were easy, and some of the questions were moderate, I could say. And this time UPSC has surprised everybody, bringing the essence of CSAT in the paper, and most of the questions were a mix of static and current economy, and some of the questions were needed a conceptual clarity otherwise. So having the basic idea of those topics would have been enough to solve those questions. And coming to science and technology, so we got a good number of questions, which are around 16, and most of the questions were easy in nature, and which were highly discussed in the current affairs. And so some of the questions were in moderate level, and so most of the questions were current affairs linked, as I told you, and some of the questions from the tech based. So from environment, obviously we got to see around 12 questions, and out of 12 questions, so most of them were moderate, and some very few we got to see the easy questions. Otherwise, you were in need of covering the current affairs in a very accurate manner. So otherwise, most of the questions were current based and current linked, and some of the questions were conceptual based also. And from IR, as we already discussed that the number of questions were less, but it played very good key role. And so though the number of questions were less, so which were very easy in nature, and except a few map related questions, or except one or two questions, so most of the questions were easier. So map based questions, obviously that might have made paper tricky. Otherwise, rest of the questions like BRICS, NATO and BIMSTEC related topics were highly easier this year. And some of the questions, as I told you, the map related questions were needed deeper understanding and deeper analysis in this year. And sports related, as we discussed already, so this year there was two sports related questions, one from Coco, national Coco game, and the second one from chess. So which were highly discussed in current affairs, and that was in news. And yeah, with this we are done with the good analysis of this year. And yeah, most of you people might be relaxing just after the exam, and I would suggest you people to come out of that relaxed mode and quick start your mains, and without expecting anything from this result. Those who are finding, those who are in the midst of confusion whether they clear this exam or not clear this exam, it's okay. Though you are very confident that if you are unable to make it to the list, still go ahead and give a good preparation for mains. So anyway, it is going to help you out. And this year there is a very less number of days left over for mains, and without further wasting your days and time, so quick start your mains, and very all the best from Laexcellence. And I wish you all all the best once again, and thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.